what are your goals?
Yeah.
Define your goal. And then once you define your goal, then you know what the answer is. It's like you could open up a professional recording facility if your goal is to record bands the old way, mics on amps, mics on drums, people performing, how much of a market you have. Then there's the whole new market, that's the laptop producer, right? So all you need is a laptop and some cool plugins and a MIDI keyboard. And it's like, and you could
make a beat,
put out some bangers and do that. I mean, like, you know what I mean? There's no rule. It's like everyone's doing that already. Bjork is another artist that like I've loved since I was a kid. Like, she's incredible, amazing. And she said that the best creative tool that she ever received was a laptop. And she said the reason why it's the best creative tool is like because she was able to go out into the wilderness, into nature, sit by lakes, look at mountains, be in nature and create. And I was on a plane and I watched the Leonard Cohen Hallelujah biography. He writes the lyrics for Hallelujah. It takes him 7 years, but it's the deliberation, the pain, the struggle. It's like, not that it's a bad struggle. It's just like the work, the effort that like when you finish it and you write a masterpiece like that, it's not because it took him 7 years. He probably wrote 150 different versions of it. It took him 7 years to decide which version he wanted, but he was still writing it. But that entire journey is the reward. That's where you learn your lessons. That's where like you become a better person. That's where you grow. All that stuff, that's the best part. So it's like if the technology does too much for you, it takes away the whole like joy to me. Like, maybe I'm just an old man. I'm probably just an old man and it's okay. But like, for me, like the whole joy is not in like, oh, I wrote a great song. It's like how I wrote that song.
But let's say, if someone is producing in their house, do you have any like specific technical stuff that you can suggest to start with? Because I know a lot of people sometimes, they think I need the best mic, I need the best instrument or whatever best equipment to get something out there. That's not always
You want to know the big secret, right?
What are some of the tech secrets or some, I'm
just bugging you, man.
All right, welcome to another episode of Getting Curious With. Today we have another special guest. His name is Derek Orsi. Derek is a music producer, record producer, a solo artist, a DJ, and has a lot of other credentials in the music industry. He's also co-owner of Freak Shop, which is a recording studio in Montreal, Quebec, where we're also based at. And another cool thing about Derek is that he's actually part of my family, so that's a little extra in his resume.
Makes me that much cooler.
So we're happy to have you here, Derek. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So before we get into it, how about you just give us some background about you? Tell us how you got started in the music industry, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you gave me a good intro. So that's basically a lot of the stuff that I do and I've done. I started playing guitar when I was 10 years old. So that was when I formally began learning an instrument. However, I was singing when I was a kid. I was singing when I was 3, 4. I really actually loved to sing. It was something that I used to do quite a bit. And then I guess I went to elementary school and I kind of forgot about it. I found sports. But when I was 10, I wanted to learn the guitar. So I got a classical guitar. I studied that for 2 years. And after I studied that, I got my first electric guitar when I was about 12 years old. Practiced guitar all throughout high school. Was basically self-taught. I mean, you buy CDs or you buy tablature books. You learn by ear, play with your friends. I mean, I used to practice 5-6 hours a day easily, on top of homework and all that kind of stuff. And then I went to Vanier College in music, in the jazz program there. I went to Concordia University in the jazz program there as a guitarist. But like, you're a musician. You learn your ear training, your history. You learn a little bit of production, arrangement, composing, all that kind of stuff. So school was cool. I jumped into professionally in the music industry when I was about 20 years old, which was 2001. I played in a band, I'll call it a new metal band, kind of inspired by, bands of the day like Deftones, Incubus, Tool, stuff like that. So this band was called the Shannon Index, and I was with that band as the guitar player for about 2-3 years, till about 2003. We released an EP, did some touring. I played with a band called Kamikaze Baby soon afterwards. That was more like funk rock. Played in that band for a couple of years as well. Guitar player, did some recording, did some touring. All that music you could hear on Spotify, it's up. That was around 2006, I think, when we released our EP. And then somewhere around, I think, 2007, 2008, I kind of wanted to leave the music scene, the live scene, the touring scene, the performance scene, and I wanted to like experiment with other stuff. So I became a DJ actually, and I kind of like DJ'd professionally for about 10 years until about like I think 2019, something like that. So like 2008-9 until about 2019. I worked at a lot of clubs, bars, restaurants around Montreal, downtown Montreal, Rouge, B-Side, Gate Manger, Nesta. Like there was like a lot of stuff, private parties, weddings. I did all that kind of stuff. And during that time, I got into production. So I opened up a project studio with my buddy Dave. And that was around 2007-8. So it's a long history, but like I got into production. We opened up a little like production studio. No name. We had that for 4 years. It was on top of a pizzeria in Montreal North. It smelled like pizza all the time. It was like, like humble beginnings, all that kind of stuff. But we kind of like learned, understood the craft. I mean, I'm still learning today, like many, many years later, but like, we kind of like understood the basics, the fundamentals. We experimented a lot. I was there like 5 days, 6 days a week, working, like the night shift. I'd get there like at 5 p.m. until 7 a.m. It's like, after work, doing like more work. And that was like my mid-20s, so I had energy, And then we opened up Freak Shop 4 years later in 2011. And we've had that for 12 years now. It's going to be 12 years in August. Wow. And that's like, a professional production, professional recording production facility. We've worked with a lot of really great artists, a lot of great producers, record labels. I mean, international artists over the 12 years. It's been amazing, different styles of music. And there I've been, a recording engineer, a music producer, a mixer, songwriter. I've been hired to play guitar on sessions. I mean, there's records that I'm playing guitar on. So it's, musically and, professionally, it's been a wild ride. It's been fun. I think I just kind of dabbled in a lot of stuff. And during those years, like I never really got back to playing professionally as a musician, but I did, launch my solo career in 2020 when COVID hit. Kind of had some time and I had all these songs. Like, I mean, I have a backlog of probably another 20 songs I haven't released yet, maybe more, And like, I guess I had the time. We weren't working. We were closed. So I got into like releasing my music. So I released my first solo record, Fallen Angels, in 2021 after starting the promotion in 2020, 2023, which is this year. I'm going to be releasing my second solo record, Astral Youth. I haven't announced much about that yet, but I mean, I've released 2 singles already, Daydreamer and XXX. Yeah. So that's been the journey. I mean, it's all music. It's been a lot of work, a lot of fun times. So that's kind of like the long, short story.
That's pretty extensive. I mean, yeah. I did not, yeah.
I'm only beginning, man. I'm only beginning. I haven't even started yet.
No, for sure, man. For sure, you have a lot in front of you. I mean, Evan had told some background on you, but yeah, you've done a lot, and I think that's pretty cool what you've done so far. Regarding like your new album that you've done recently, so since you had some time after COVID to work on that, why don't you talk more in depth about that? Like, what is the background on that? Like the songs that you wrote, what do they mean for you? We did hear some of the songs in there and they were pretty cool. Like the production value, I have to say, is very good too. Very nice, well made.
Cool, thank you. I mean, what songs did you guys hear? What did you listen to? Do you remember the titles at all? Or
yeah, like some of the tracks, like in the beginning, I didn't listen to the whole thing. I didn't have the time yet, but like, like the first song, The Self-Portrait of a Dying Man, The House is on Fire. Some of those songs in there, they were pretty cool. I saw one that that record was written
like a long time ago. I mean, that was written and recorded, I think, between like 2010 and 2012.
Oh, okay.
And then like my second record, which I'm releasing now, was kind of written and recorded between 2016 or 2015 to like 18, something like I worked on it. I just had this backlog of like material. So like, I mean, those songs are like a little old. I have an EP that's done also that hopefully I'll be releasing starting at the end of the year or the beginning of next year. But I'm catching up. But those songs like it was written at a different time. So it's like I'm definitely not that person anymore. Not because it was a bad person, but like I think, it was a different age, a different like time in, like my growth as a human, my awareness was different. I mean, my experiences were different. So, I mean, those songs were a little more political, a little more like, social commentary. If I'm talking about lyrical themes right now, it was a little more, trying to remember now because I haven't even thought about those lyrics in a while. A little more poetic too, I guess. So there was a lot of just, like being, I guess, in your late 20s and like just going through whatever I was going through, emotionally, mentally, like, The House is on Fire is a song about like, it's a little political. I think, the irony though, is that I released like Crash and Burn was like about the military industrial complex. And I released that in 2020, COVID. That's when I released it. But like, I thought I didn't really get into the politics about that song because I don't really care to like, show up to that party anymore. It doesn't really like interest me. It's a bit of a waste of time. I think politics are kind of, they're important, but like, I think it just destroys people's mental like health and all that kind of stuff. So, my feeling at the time was just, a commentary on, like the destructiveness on so many levels of the military industrial complex or the industrial military complex. I don't even remember what it's called. Yeah. It mattered to me a lot more back then. But like, just how war is like, not how it literally is tearing up, countries, because it's like, yes, it literally tears up countries. But it's like when you go deeper into, who's profiting, why it's being done, all that kind of stuff. So like Crash and Burn was one of those songs, but even though it was about war, I thought it was really relevant in the COVID times about how, there was like a lot of, in my opinion, like political injustice throughout, that entire like sequence of what it was, So I just thought, ironically, it's like, and I knew it at the time when I wrote it, things don't really change anyway, whether you're in 2012 or 2002 or 1960 or 1845 or 1111 or 900 BC. It's always like, the story of life is going to be the same. Technology might change, like the backdrop might change, but, human beings and that story thing never changes. So it's like, it was just funny how it was relevant like close to a decade later. Yeah. But I was listening to a lot of, at the time I was also listening to a lot of those like, what people call conspiracy theories, David Icke, all that kind of stuff, and like that was definitely in my consciousness. It was definitely like in my thoughts. I was entertained by that narrative, so I kind of like wrote about it. But like, releasing it 8 years later, I was 40 years old compared to, I guess, 32 or 30 or whenever I wrote it, I'm still into that stuff, but it's like I'm just in a different place, But it's fun also to look back at, who you were, what you were thinking. It's a little bit of a diary, anyways. That's what music's always been. I listen back to like the Shannon Index in 2002, 2001, and it's like a moment in time. I wouldn't play like that anymore. I wouldn't write like that anymore. Not because it's good or bad, just because that's not who I am. But I love listening. It's like looking at an old photograph of you when you were like 19, 20 or 26, 27. It just, this is who I was. This is how I thought. This is how I played the instrument. You listen to how I play guitar on that record. It's very different how I play guitar now. It's very different how I played back in 2001 or 6 or 10 or whatever. So, but, like Fallen Angels, that record with all those songs is just, I guess it's a collection. The short story is that it's it's kind of like a concept record. It kind of tells the story of somebody going through this journey of, at least beginning to question life, beginning to question his environment, not in a good or bad way. Just, I think everyone does that, right? You're just questioning who you are, where you are, why things are normal, why things are not normal. I don't know. At least that's the kind of person I am. But I know there's a lot of people out there that definitely are inquisitive. They're seekers, so it's the classic question that we all ask ourselves, right? Yeah. But, so you think that was that record and those songs, and musically it was just like inspired by like, the solo records that I've put out weren't written for commercial appeal. It was, I was producing records, I was DJing, I was making my money. I was playing pop music in the clubs every weekend, 3 days a week. So for me, it was like, okay, let me try and write music that's a little more off, the beaten path. Odd time signatures, stranger chord like patterns. It's not like typical, formulaic pop stuff that, works. That, all the music you like is because it follows not necessarily a formula. There's creativity and ingenuity in it, but it has to fit within, certain things. You can't do other things because then it's not going to be called pop anymore. It's not going to be mainstream, right?
Yeah.
Same way like reggae has its rules and like heavy metal has its rules. They don't intersect, because if they did, then, they do now, but there's certain things that make you say, oh, that's a heavy metal drum beat versus a hip hop drum beat versus a reggae drum beat versus, an indie rock.
Yeah, for sure.
Drum beat,
There's some
but
sort
anyways,
of
that was the
similarity
vibe.
Yeah.
So you think COVID was what made those songs kind of resurface and make you want to officialize an album?
there.
Yeah, well, I had that album kind of on the shelf and Astral Youth. They were both already done, I haven't even released Astral Youth yet. So, and then like I started working on an EP, which is, recorded, but I have to mix it. And then I have a whole other bunch of songs that I've written that I've never recorded yet. So it was just more like the time. It's like I didn't really have the time to release it, and it just didn't feel like I needed to release it. And I think COVID, everyone was just looking to be entertained that first year or two. You know what I mean? Everyone was at home. They were bored.
Yeah.
It was a lot more attention on music and the arts than like there is even like this year, I find, 2020, 2021, it's like, like people are still like, they're more into going live, but I'm talking about just like living on, YouTube or Spotify or whatever. I'm not a live act still now. So, like there was more eyes, I think, during that time. And I thought, you know what, this is great because I do play shows, but like not enough to like build an audience. So it's like, it felt like, oh, I could build an audience here. Whereas maybe in 2019, 18, 17, doing the same thing, I wouldn't have, And the intention of that project is not really to be like famous or a rock star or have a career. It might change, but it's really just like a personal project, So I just felt it was cool. It was time. I had space. I had like a medium, so I kind of went for it. Prior to that, like I was living in LA in 2018, and I was like working on records and like working with a producer out there, and I didn't have time to work on my personal project. It was like trying to like hustle out there. 2019, I got back and I got into teaching a lot. I was teaching at a place called Recording Arts Canada for that year, and even 2020.
Oh, I've heard about that place. Yeah,
teaching music production and then producing records at the studio and writing and doing all that stuff. But it's like, like starting a career on your own too is, to me, it's not really what I want to do. I'd rather be with a band. I'd rather be with a team, a collective, it just makes things easier. There's more people like carrying the weight. There's more inspiration to go around, So like, the me stuff is just, I love it. I love the music. I love doing it. It's fun, but it's just me being like creative, It's not really, there's no ulterior motive, but like, there's no like ambition to like do more other than create, which is actually liberating because everything else you do, there's like, you have to like do it well to a standard that's being like, like assessed and judged and stuff, so, but that's the deal with that stuff.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool, Derek. Like, would you say that is there one thing you prefer more than the other? Like, do you like producing your own stuff or producing more other people's stuff? Or is it kind of, a mix of the two, in your career?
I personally enjoy the diversity of it, I like, there's certain things that I get to do when I work on my own versus when I work with others, and and then there's things that I can't do working on my own and working with others. So they're just different scenarios, and it's all fun. It's fun to be able to be multi-dimensional in that way. Like, sometimes I'll get hired to just play guitar on a record, and that's fun because all I have to worry about and think about is playing guitar, and then I could really jump into that, and it's fun. It's the guitar. It's like I love playing guitar, I kind of got off it now, but I started the new year, like the entire month of January, I was back at like 5 hours a day of practice. I got into, I don't know why, I just fell in love with Van Halen again. I used to love them when I was in high school, and I didn't listen to them since like the 90s, and then I was like, okay, I want to start shredding. So I was practicing 5 hours. I went to Mexico for 6 weeks and I didn't bring my guitar, so I kind of stopped the habit. But like, it was just fun to like play guitar, right? So it's like, that's a thing. It's fun. And then sitting down in front of a song and you're opening up all the tracks and then you're able to mix that song, that's a whole other experience, right? Because now it's like it's a whole other brain, it's a whole other experience altogether. You're mixing music, you're working with effects, you're balancing, you're creating this like 3-dimensional soundscape that like, you know, is very, very fun and interesting, and it's like it's a crazy craft. And you know, that's one thing, producing a band, being in the studio with them, actually putting up mics and talking about arrangements and getting through performances and inspiring people and like trying to get the best out of people, and you know, like trying to get the best out of the music. And it's like teamwork, either, you know, if you're working with a solo artist or a band or whatever it is, it's like there's that whole like, you know, community
Collaboration.
vibe. We're doing something, collaboration together, and like you're inspiring me, I'm inspiring you. You have great music, but I'm going to help you, I don't want to say make it better, just make it the best that it could be. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's by doing nothing. Sometimes it's by doing a couple of things. Sometimes it's by doing a lot. But it's fun to just do that. So they're all very different experiences. Playing on a stage, DJing in front of a crowd. It's all different stuff. So
Yeah. And I think that's that's one way to learn. You know, when you're doing different things, you learn the best by doing that. You know, if you're just, you know, always doing one thing, you don't advance that well. But if you do different things, I feel like you learn the most that way.
I mean, it all depends. It depends on like your character and what your goals are, because I believe that if you want to really achieve greatness, then like your focus has to be singular. You know what I mean? It's like if you want to be not forever, it's like it's like a little bit of a like, I mean, it makes perfect sense, but it's a strange thing. It's like, if you want to achieve something, then, you know, you should have blinders on. You should just do that and only that, and be very singular about like your focus and your thoughts and your actions. And it's like, I don't think you should be one-dimensional. Like you should still have a little bit of a social life or a life outside of like what you're pursuing, but you shouldn't be pursuing too many different things, because then all your energy, all your focus, that, you know, this energetic field you create around yourself that's propelling you into the reality that you're living is like strong on this one like vibration, right? If you're doing a million things, then, I mean, it's great. You learn. They say, you know, I'm a great, I don't know, what's the saying? I'm great at a lot of stuff, master at none, or whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
Jack of all trades. But
Yeah, jack of all trades, but master of none, right? So, but it's not that it's bad either, because, you know, like for me, it's like, I guess, I don't know, maybe I just get bored easily. So it's like, you know, I did guitar. I never mastered the guitar, but I got to a point where it's like, okay, well, I mean, I could choose to be the biggest guitar player in the world. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe I should have done that. But I was like, okay, let me get into production. It's like, I'd been in recording studios. I'd already recorded. It's like, it was a buzz. It's like, man, this is great. And like, I saw a career there, you know? So I kind of like, I just went for it. So it's like, but I'm doing that very well. You know, that's the singular focus has mostly been on that. That's why, like, you know, like the other stuff we talked about before, they're more like my hobbies, you know, like you do your job, and I love my job. I'm like blessed every day. I wake up. It's like, I can't believe that this is in my house. It's like, it's amazing. Like, you know, gratitude is an important part of like my life and anybody's life. It's like, you know, when you're
of course
consciously grateful for things, then like, you change the, you know, the vibration in you. So I walk in here every day, and it's like, it still trips me out. It's like, I'm
surreal,
so grateful for this. Like I worked for it, but like, you know, it's just being grateful for it just elevates how like amazing it feels. So that's a bit my thing. What about you guys? Like I'd like to hear about you. Like you know, like it would be fun to have a conversation, get into like different ideas and like stuff. Like what, I mean, if we're on the topic of music, do you guys have questions or comments about like the music industry, or what's your relationship to the music industry? What kind of music do you guys like? How much about production do you know? Do you know nothing at all? Have you ever been in a recording studio? I mean,
well, yeah,
okay.
well,
HAIKO, go ahead first.
Obviously, we're gonna get into more, obviously regarding music production and all that. But maybe just to give a bit of like, you know, background on us, like myself, you know, I have dabbled in music production. I do have like a sort of smallish, you know, home studio, you know, sort of home studio. I have like my guitar, my piano. If people watch our other videos that we have, the regular podcast that we do, it's, you know, around that setup. And I have, you know, produced some stuff on my own, mostly like, you know, electronic based, you know, in the box, as they say it. You know, mixed and mastered my own songs. It's been a couple of years though that I have, you know, made a new song. sometimes it's just like, the motivation or the inspiration is just not there. But I hope I could maybe dabble into it a bit more. And, maybe today might be some inspiration coming from you, Derek, or some tips or whatever that you might give us.
Whatever we could grab from the podcast for sure.
Yeah. And for other audience members listening to us,
I've seen a couple of podcasts, and I do know that like you play the piano. I've seen you play the piano on the podcast, and like I see the guitars on the wall, and I figured like some nice mics there, so I figured like you kind of knew your stuff, so like it was gonna be. I was excited to talk to you about it as well. Heiko. So like. Yeah. Evan, like I know you used to play guitar when you were younger. You still playing?
Yeah, I'm still playing. Derek, fun fact, was actually my guitar teacher when I was a kid.
It was.
Yeah. So I started playing guitar, I guess I was 7, at this school called Ital Melody in Laval, like where we're from.
I used to teach guitar. I didn't mention that before.
Yeah,
but yes, I was a guitar teacher as well.
Yeah, exactly. So like I mentioned, Derek's part of my family, but he was also my guitar teacher at the same time. I kind of, started playing guitar around then, but then I kind of fell off for like quite a few years. But then I guess around 2017, I started picking it up again. And I was playing pretty seriously for a few years. Now I'm still playing like on and off, I would say. Like mainly lately, we've been focusing a lot on the podcast and trying to grow that. So that's mainly been the focus. But, I still really like playing guitar pretty often, cranking the volume in my room on the amp,
up to 11.
Breaking my parents' ears.
What's your favorite song to play, Evan?
What? Sorry,
what's your favorite song to play?
My favorite song to play. Well, I really like the band Dream Theater. So.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah,
that's hard stuff to play, though.
Yeah, it's hard.
I can't play that stuff.
The song "Pull Me Under" is probably my favorite song to play. It's
okay, cool.
It's an old one. Yeah. But I learned that song. It taught me a lot about technique, different time signatures, kind of like you were mentioning earlier, melody. John Petrucci is probably my favorite guitar player, so I learned a lot from.
He's one of the best for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was never a huge Dream Theater fan, but I have a couple of their albums. I can't remember the names now. I'm really bad with titles, but like they're cool. They're very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very like experimental,
very progressive.
Yeah. So
I mean, like with the music I was playing in the early 2000s was, I wouldn't say it was inspired by them, but like they were one of the bands that, fit into that whole idea of like what I was trying to do, with the music that I was doing in the early 2000s. It was very technical, like shreddy, palm muty, heavy guitars, crazy riffs, stuff like that,
Hard solos and things.
I think like back then I wasn't doing solos because it wasn't very pop to be doing solos. The guitar solo was kind of dead in the early 2000s, People didn't really want to hear it anymore. Like there wasn't guitar solos on the radio, you know what I mean? Like most of the 90s too. Like Kurt Cobain killed the guitar solo, right? But there was still guitar solos in the 90s. Early 90s, but like by the mid 90s till the end, like there was no more guitar solos. So it's like I loved playing guitar solos, but it was not cool. But Dream Theater didn't care. They were like, guitar solos forever,
Yeah, they just go on for minutes and minutes.
Yeah,
minutes,
but it's
songs
awesome.
with solos.
It's like, who cares? But do music, like that's the thing. It's do music the way you want to do it, Do you.
Yeah.
So
not what the mainstream necessarily is. Yeah, because obviously music has become sort of formulaic, whether we like it or not. The whole genre of pop music does follow a certain formula, even though, there is some creativity in it. But, we recognize, this is, this has a verse, chorus, bridge, certain structure to it. But I think, when artists do their own thing, it's kind of unique and special. And you're like, wow, okay,
Well, listen, I don't think that the record industry has become that. I think it's always been that.
Okay.
If you go back to the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, Elvis is amazing, but Elvis was pop and very formulaic. I mean, he was a sensation because it was like crossing boundaries that like today look ridiculous, but back then were like very controversial, right?
True.
But I'm just taking him as the first one, but like any of the pop stars of the day, whoever they were in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, 80s, 90s, all that stuff, it's like pop was always the same thing, but the mainstream had an alternative. You know what I mean? They always had an alternative for the mainstream audience. Now, the mainstream audience is not getting an alternative. The alternative is kind of like, you find it. You know what I mean? Which is not a good or a bad thing. It's just that, like, when you're talking about TV, radio, all that kind of stuff, you're not getting the alternative anymore. You're not getting the option to say, here's an alternative to like the pop. Like, it's still going to be pop. It's like, the Nirvanas and the Guns N' Roses and all that stuff were still pop. Dream Theater, though, like those bands, like I'm a huge Frank Zappa fan. It's like, like those kind of artists that like they still had these massive careers, but they were nothing near pop, but they were successful on the merit of like their incredible talent. You know what I mean? It's like, it was just like, oh, you guys are undeniably amazing. You're not going to sell out arenas like Celine Dion, but it's like you're going to have a great career because you're an incredible artist, Now I just don't think there's like, there's not enough like support for like,
alternative.
I'm not trying to diminish them. Like those second layer kind of like successful artists, because they're not pop, so they're not going to get all that kind of like visibility and money and advertisement. But like, labels had more money to like support less successful, amazing bands in the past than they do now. Now, it's not, like, again, it's not a bad or a good thing. It's just like a different system, right? So it's like, we're only going to support the super pop because that's all like we have money and resources or desire to do. And then it's like, for the rest of the artists, it's like, well, I mean, listen, if you're still amazing, if you're undeniably amazing, people will find you on Spotify. They'll find you on YouTube. They'll find you on iTunes. It's like, you're not getting a bad deal. You might even be getting a better deal, but like you got to work just as hard. And it's like, people could find you, put an amazing video, and it's like you got millions of views, and you didn't have to like share any of that, like profit or whatever with like a label, because it's just like organic. It's great, It's good and bad. It really depends. But like the mainstream is what I'm saying. It's like, like you're not getting as many of those artists in the mainstream, in the press, in the the award shows and the whatever,
Yeah. I think, like with our current times, as you mentioned, with Spotify and whatnot, it has become kind of easier to share and spread your music. Like back in the day in the 50s or whatnot, just to record a song, you had to go to an actual recording studio, spend a lot of money per hour, and have, musicians to record everything. But nowadays, you can create stuff on your own and also easily share it, and people can find it, and you don't need to be with this big label or publisher to get your music noticed. And to kind of, segue into the other topic that we wanted to delve into, regarding music production, kind of in the technical side. But let's just start with, if someone does want to get into music production, what kind of tips or recommendations would you have for them? Someone who wants to produce their own stuff.
It's funny because even just 3 years ago, I was like I told you, I was teaching at Recording Arts Canada, right? So I was giving people advice at the studio up until we even did it the first year of COVID, but we did it online. But up until 2020, so basically, well, I don't want to say up until, maybe between 2017 and 2020, so for 3 years, I think, we had what we called like Freak Shop Academy. And like we were giving production courses, one-on-one, group seminars, all kinds of stuff, maybe even into 2021, what we did into 2021. So my point is, like, the advice I was even giving just 2 years ago is completely different now. Like, to be very honest, it's like I don't even know how to answer that question right now, because things are like changing so much. And, from my perspective, it's just interesting. Like, you brought up like how it's not as difficult to record anymore, right? So, in the past, it's like if you wanted to be a recording artist, you had to be really good. You weren't allowed in the studio if you weren't professional on your instrument, whether that was an actual instrument like piano, guitar, drum, or your voice. You just were not allowed. Now, like someone maybe like Bob Dylan, who people like kind of criticize for not having a great voice. I think he had a phenomenal voice. He wouldn't win on American Idol, but that's the whole point. You know what I mean? It was like he still had something that was like undoubtedly, incredible. Right?
Different,
like,
and didn't care what other people thought, even though his voice wasn't,
But
to
it's
the
not
standards.
like, he doesn't have a traditionally great voice, but it's like the heart is so strong that it's like it's undeniable, But regardless, it's like, I'm saying like even those people had phenomenal talent. Like he was a phenomenal lyricist. He was a phenomenal songwriter. He was a phenomenal guitar player. He was a phenomenal singer. He was a phenomenal everything. But my point is you had to be phenomenal to be in the studio. Like just the technology wouldn't allow for mediocrity. Just like didn't allow for it, right? So like the level of musician had to be really high. Now it's like, it's a different time. Like a guitar player that I really, really love and like, you know, I've been really, really inspired by over the years is John Frusciante from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And
Oh,
like,
yes. Yeah.
you know, he said something interesting where like, I don't think he's as great a guitar player technically now than he was when he was younger, but this guy was a phenomenal, like, and still is a phenomenal guitar player. Phenomenal. I mean, incredible, you know? And like, he said, it's an amazing time now. He goes, because people like me could make records and not have to be good at like any instrument, you know? And it's like, for him, it's inspiring because it's like, okay, well, I'm phenomenal at guitar, but I suck at drums. But it doesn't matter. I can suck at drums and I could still like record the song. And like, I suck at singing, but it's okay because I could still record and suck at singing and be good, you know? So it's just, it's not good or bad. It's just like, you know, you look at it the way you want to look at it. It's like before you were getting, you know, the best of the best musicians performing and producing and writing music. Now, you know, you're still getting the best of the best because it's all about the song, right? If you're able to write a great song, you know, in the past, if you were able to write a great song, but you couldn't sing, you couldn't like play an instrument, you couldn't do whatever, then you were kind of stuck, you know? I mean, you could still sell the song. There's a lot of songwriters more in the jazz days, but like even in like the 60s, 70s, they were just songwriters, just sell songs, you know? But for the most part, the artists, you know, were performing them. So now you don't have to be able to perform them, which is it's fantastic, you know? And then on top of that, you don't have to go to a big recording studio to get it done, you know? Like before, it's like, forget it. Like even if you wrote a song, you know what I mean? And even if you could play it, did you have the budget to go in and record it? It's like, it cost a lot of money. It was not like today. It's like, you know, technology was incredible. I mean, those records back then sound incredible, but it was a lot more expensive to run this technology. You know what I mean? It was a lot more scarce. So there was a lot less people doing it. But now people have access to it. It's crazy. Like every day Spotify releases 100,000 new songs. You know what I mean? Think about that. Every single day there's 100,000 new releases, right? If you go back to like the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, even the 2000s, it's like before we had this mass distribution, I mean, you still to release a song for people to hear it. I mean, you could release it on Facebook or YouTube or MySpace or whatever back then, but you know, it was still like a big deal. There wasn't like a billion releases. Like you still had to spend money to go into studio. It was still hard to do. So it's like if you had a release, you know, there wasn't as many people, but now there's like so many people could do it. It's like, and in the next 2 years with AI and everything, it's, you know, you don't even have to know how to write a song. You know what I mean? It's like you're getting from the point of not having to know how to play to not having to know how to write. And at a certain point, you don't even have to think about it. It's just like songs will produce themselves, you know?
It just makes, which we are going to.
But I mean, this is every industry. It's like, I'm talking about music, but like every industry is going to be impacted by like AI. You know, it's already being impacted. Like the commercials I see now, this is why I was just saying before, I don't know how to answer the question. It's like the commercials I see now for the new technology, the new software, the new apps, the new like plugins. It's like, it's so crazy. It's like, you know, it's not, I don't have a feeling towards it because I love the way that I create, you know, and that's always going to be the way I create. And I still get in a room and I jam with like humans and I still like put on shows and there's plenty of people that will, and they'll forever keep doing it. But the young generations are going to like be morphing into, you know, like a different kind of relationship to music. And the young generation is the generation that dictates the marketplace, right? Like, I mean, now it's like, okay, fine, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds could still dictate it a bit, but the trends, what's cool, what's going to go down in history as relevant at the time is all dictated by like 10 to 25-year-olds, right? So, So but they're going to be, you know, the technology they're using and the way they're interacting and wanting to listen to music is going to define the new cool, the new sound, the new everything.
Okay, but say we would go 12 years back and you were at a place where you had to start your studio. what would you have done then, and maybe people could grab some advice? I know it's a little different now with this AI
I know.
revolution. That's
I think it's just, I mean, honestly, the answer is just like follow your heart, right? I'm not saying this all in a good or a bad way. It's just like this is kind of like laying down the landscape, which is like in the last 2 years, like I'm saying, is very different than the past. So it's like it's so new world that all you could do is like just follow your heart. It's like if your heart tells you to ask ChatGPT, to like write a song for you because it means something and it's going to help you feel better about something, and it's like it's touching your heart, then like I think the technology is fantastic. Oh, I'm not smart enough to write a song. Oh, I'm not creative enough to write a song. Oh, I'm not like whatever like whatever ridiculous thoughts people have about like being able or not being able to like do anything. Like you could write a song. Anybody could write a song. It's literally just putting words on a paper. Doesn't have to make sense. It's just like you could at least do that, So if that touches your heart, then use the technology and it's fine. If you're further along the path as a musician and it's like you love playing in a band, then continue playing in a band. If, like even me, it's like I have this home studio now for precisely that reason. I'm going to get into more electronic music. I'm going to do more, completely like self-sufficient productions here at home because that's where like, things are headed. I don't know if like opening up a commercial recording studio to record in the old way, I don't want to say that it doesn't make sense. I mean, I own one. It's called Freak Shop, and I'm going to keep it open as long as possible. But it's like we're 12 years in. I wouldn't discourage people from starting one, but I mean, you could probably get further ahead in the industry. Again, like I said it before. What are your goals?
Yeah.
Define your goal, and then once you define your goal, then you know what the answer is. It's like you could open up a professional recording facility if your goal is to record bands the old way. Mics on amps. Mics on drums, people performing, going after performance, but how much of a market you have, right? It's like you have a certain chunk of that market. Then there's the whole new market, that's the laptop producer, right? So if you could get in a room with your friends and your buddies and like all you need is a laptop and some cool plugins and a MIDI keyboard, and it's like, and you could
make a beat,
put out some bangers, then do that. I mean, like, what I mean? There's no rule. It's like everyone's doing that already, right? So it makes more sense. It's more cost effective. There's more of a market for it. That's how people want to like consume music now. You know what I mean? It's easier to make. It's less expensive to make. You could produce more of it. You have more of a chance if you put out 100 songs that one of them will get picked up on sync licensing. You might make some money. Maybe 10 of them will. But if you go through the effort of like recording everything physically, all that stuff, it's going to take you longer, right? You're going to put out less material. You have less of a chance of things like catching on a commercial, on a whatever. Again, what are your goals? If you're talking about professionally, then, I would say, again, just follow your heart and like decide which makes you feel better, which one like makes more sense to you. But it's like the AI technology and like the digital technology is going to like eat up the other side eventually. Because that's, so get into that.
So that's
understand
interesting.
Plugins, understand software, you know what I mean? All that stuff. Super, super, super important. That's where the world's going.
So that's interesting. So you're saying that kind of like the old way of, recording a song in a full-blown studio is kind of getting, not replaced, but it's transitioning towards kind of like the home recording, kind of like with your own laptop. Yeah, kind of like bedroom home studio.
Well, it has been for a long time. It's like at least a decade that it has been.
Yeah.
But the technology now in the last couple of years is just, it's gotten to a point that it's so good, and it's only going to get better. That, I mean, I was living in LA in 2018, mixing records in my bedroom with headphones. I had moved to LA, and I had clients from Montreal that needed their records mixed. I mixed a couple of really cool records, actually. A band called the Hazy Tones, another band called Mountain Dust, another band called Science for Lunatics. There was a bunch of projects that I'd mixed, I think, when I was in LA. And I was working out there with artists out there, but I was still getting some like gigs. And I'd mix in my bedroom on a laptop with headphones. And it was like the craziest thing because I was used to like a studio with great speakers, and it's like I hated it. But it was fun to say, you know what, like I could do this, and it's fun. And I'm looking at palm trees in my bedroom and like mixing records, and it's like, it's a trip, and it's like, and these records are being released and they're coming out, and they sound great. So that was already 5 years ago, right? So now it's like, I have, like right across the hall from me, I have a couple of buddies that are songwriters, and they work completely in the box, Fruity Loops, MIDI keyboards. You know what I mean? They do reggaeton. They do like mostly Latin stuff. They landed a couple of songs for Bad Bunny. You know what I mean? It's like these guys
really?
are doing pretty
Wow.
good. They just got nominated for a Grammy. It's like, and they're doing, they're doing Grammy nominations, like working with like one of the top 3 like streamed artists on Spotify in the world, right? And they're doing it all in a room half the size of this room with a laptop, not a laptop, I mean, whatever. They have their desktop or laptop, MIDI keyboard, and they're doing amazing. But like they're writing great songs. It's like, I don't think people care anymore how it's being recorded. I think the song has to be great. So if you're going to get the best song out of producing a band that's performing instruments, I mean, that's still the way I love to do it, but I love electronic music too. So like I love both ways, but if that's the best way you're going to like achieve the result, do that. If the best result is going to be achieved by being in a room working digitally, then do that, Bjork is another artist that like I've loved since I was a kid. I don't know if you guys know Bjork, but like she's incredible, amazing. And she said that the best creative tool that she ever received was a laptop. And she said the reason why it's the best creative tool is she's like, I could go into a recording studio, and her music is, mostly electronic. And like, we're talking about drums because everything else is like synthesizers, vocals, whatever. You could do those remotely anywhere. But if you have electronic drums and that's just like software, then it's like that changes a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? It's very hard to record drums. You need a great room, a great drummer, great drums, tuned very well. It's like, it's a whole, there's a million ways that you can mess it up. You know what I mean? It's like, it's been set up. So it's like, okay, you have to go through these 10 stages. And if you get through these 10 stages, then you might get a good sound, But anyways, all that to say is that Bjork said that the laptop was the greatest gift because she was able to go out into the, wilderness, into nature, sit by lakes, look at mountains, be in nature and create. And it's like, I'm not stuck in this like, dingy, like dimly lit recording studio. Like for her, the inspiration had to come from like being outdoors. Like she's from Iceland. It's like the landscapes there are insane, So it's like she wanted to be there and create. So for her, that made her music better. Maybe for someone else, it's something different. So it's like, what works for you. I think life is short. It's like, don't go after what you think you have to go after. Just go after what makes you feel the best. Yeah, whatever it is, if it's hosting a podcast, if it's being a record producer, recording bands like it's 1992, like whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's like if you're a bedroom producer making like the next beat for Kanye, it's like whatever, it's like whatever works, whatever is like your true, or wherever your true passion is, then you're going to have the most success there because like you're working towards that with a lot of enthusiasm, right? If there's a lot of enthusiasm in what you do and in the work that you do, then, there's going to be a lot of love and you're always going to have success. And then like, you're going to measure success by whatever. So like whatever is successful for you is the success, like, or the definition of it will be the success you have. So I think it's just, follow your heart, and there's a million different ways. But if we're talking about trends, it's like, learn like Logic, learn Ableton, learn Fruity Loops, get into like all those digital audio softwares, just learn how to be a bedroom producer. It's like, like why are you going to like save up $100,000 to open up a recording studio?
So I guess
when
just
you could buy
a
Mac for like $2,000, right?
Just to do like an overview of the music production thing. So, like myself, when I did get into, producing stuff, obviously my first and easiest option was doing it on my laptop, on my own computer. And I think, for new coming producers, I think the best way to get into it is to do it yourself, start doing it in your own bedroom, in your own house. And you can, create a sort of mini decent studio, if you will, in your own house, have good monitor speakers, learn one of the many digital audio workstations, the softwares, like the popular ones are Logic, Ableton, FL Studio, which is the one that I use. I guess find something that you're able to, easily produce with and that works for you and your, I guess, style of music. But I guess, just to be a bit more technical, because we kind of like did an overview of like, yes, you can do a home studio type of production, or if you really want, an actual recording studio with like proper equipment and whatnot. But let's say, if someone is producing in their house, do you have any like specific like technical stuff that you can suggest to start with? Because I know a lot of people sometimes go, they think I need the best mic, I need the best, instrument or whatever best equipment to get something out there. But as we kind of touched upon, that's not always
you want to know the
necessary.
big secret, right? No.
What are some of the tech secrets or some,
No, I'm just bugging you, man. So Billie Eilish, her entire first record,
his favorite artist.
Yeah, of course, she's amazing. So her entire first record was written and recorded in her bedroom.
Yeah, Phineas, her brother, did all that.
Just look at pictures of her bedroom, and that should be good enough.
Yeah.
I think that's my answer. It's like the rest of it is,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean,
I like. Listen, man, I'm blessed. I own a recording studio called Freak Shop, which is it's acoustically treated rooms. None of the floors touch each other. Sound isolation between rooms is perfect. The acoustics are fantastic. I have all kinds of great analog equipment. Tons of microphones, tons of instruments. It's like we could do whatever. We could do bedroom producer in the studio. We could do, vocals. We could do full bands. We could do drums. We could do whatever. You know what I mean? And it's amazing. But like, if that's your vibe, that's my point. Then that's your vibe. And then go down there, and it's like just learn that. I mean, like nowadays, it's like I don't have to really guide you anywhere other than YouTube and Google. It's like you want to learn how to. I mean, if you want to get into that stuff, mixwiththemasters.com is fantastic. It's like the best engineers and producers and mixers are sharing.
I've
recording.
heard of that,
It's a good website. I used to be subscribed to that for 2-3 years. It was like maybe $400-500 a year. But it's like, unlimited videos of the best music producers, recorders, like mix engineers, all that kind of stuff. And they go through everything. This is how you master. This is how you mix. This is how you record. This is how you whatever. It's like, and they have different episodes. So you might get like someone, I don't know, like Andrew Sheps, who's like a famous mixer, biggest. Let's say, or he's very specific. He only basically mixes, right? So that's what we were saying before, like, like when you're kind of like streamlined and like singularly focused on something. Not that he doesn't want to do other stuff, but I mean, I think my point is it's like when you specialize, it's like you go deeper into like success, right? So it's like he's a big mixer, and like you're gonna have him open up songs that like I forget, like I've seen a couple of his, but I know he's worked with Adele, so maybe he opens up an Adele song. I don't know, but like he shows you how he mixes it. Or Chad Blake, he'll open up a song and he'll show you how he mixed it. This is. I don't know. I worked with like whatever band it is, right? The Killers. You pick the Killers, and the guy that mixed the Killers is like opening up a Killers song, and he's like, "This is how I mix the drums, and this is how I mix the bass, and this is what I use on my master bus." And like, if any of this stuff makes sense, it's because you understand mixing, right? So you learn that, but then you learn how to record instruments. You learn how to master songs. You get the whole gamut. It's like pretty affordable for like the $400-500. I don't know what it's worth now, but like. It's like the best of the best, and like you just learn from like amazing guys. And like Pensado's place has been like a great resource, kind of like podcast interview since like the early days, 2010, 12. It's like, I used to watch it when it first came out, where that was all there was on YouTube. You wanted to learn about mixers. It's like, who's Jack Joseph Puig? Who's Eric Valentine? Who's whoever it is that was on the show, you know what I mean? It's like you learn about all these guys, and it's like, wow. And then you get into their productions. You learn about Tony Maserati, and it's like in the early days, and then you go back and listen to their records, and that was the education. It's like you hear them speak for an hour. They share a philosophy. Like listen, like music is, the beautiful thing about it is that there's nothing to learn. It's like, you just kind of like, if you want to learn how to play an instrument, listen to that instrument and learn how to play it. You know what I mean? Like you could go to school. I went to school. If you want to record, go to school. You'll get like information. Go like look on YouTube. But like, guitar and recording, honestly, like I was self-taught in both for the longest time. Not to say that that's the best way to do it. Yeah. But you want to learn how to play guitar. Well, who are the guitar players that really like turn you on? You listen to them over and over and over and over and over. Then you start hearing those things, right? It becomes something that you hear. You understand those notes. You understand those ideas. You listen to, it's like when I found out about mixers, like you pick a mixer and then you learn about his mixes through his mixes. You listen and you listen, you listen, you listen over and over and over and over and over. And it's like, oh, now I'm really understanding what the drums are sounding like, because I'm training my brain. It's ear training. It's like I'm training my brain to either hear notes on an instrument or sounds in a mix, right? Or whatever. It's like, oh, he must have recorded it this way, or he must have mixed it that way. I hear this effect. I hear how it's equalized. I hear how all these things, right? But it's like through constant listening. Now, obviously, when you pair that with, whether it's production or playing instruments or whatever, when you pair that with like some kind of written or like visual education, you'll go on YouTube and it's like you see a guy talking about it either through an interview or through an example. It's like he's actually showing you, this is the mic and this is where I place it and this is how far it is and this is how it sounds and blah, blah, blah. Well, then you start like relating. That's the ear training. You hear, oh, that guy got that sound because the mic was at a certain distance, or because they use this equalizer, or because he used this effect, and then you start training your brain and your ear to like work together and start associating these things. So it's like,
so I'm glad you're emphasizing on the ear training thing. And I think maybe the ear training is something that's becoming less and less practiced, right? With like all the tablature nowadays and, the easy access with the technology. I feel like, well, me personally, like let's say when I'm playing guitar, sometimes I'll just almost neglect the ear training. Oh, like the tabs are here and I'll just, play the notes like from the tabs. But I think the ear training is something really important. I'm glad you emphasized that.
I mean, listen, I think the biggest thief in like within technology is the fact that people don't use their ears anymore. You know what I mean? And I think it's like where like technology helps you learn faster, because today, like in 2023, there's probably never been this many amazing musicians on planet Earth ever, not in the 50s, not in the, like the amount. I'm not saying like, when Jimi Hendrix came out, he was phenomenal, but like how many phenomenal, or like, okay, maybe not phenomenal because phenomenal is like on top of the mountain, but how many excellent, incredible guitar players were around at that time on planet Earth? Not many, but today it's like, dude, there's so many, because it's like people are educated, right? You're learning. It's like the level of education today is incomparable to what it was back then. And the technology to help you learn at the speeds you're learning. It's like, man, you go on YouTube and like you can learn how to be a record producer in 3 months if you really want to. There's so much information. It's an incredible library. It's like we never had that before. So there's so many, and then the technology is better. The technology is better. So it's like, it helps you like just get your ideas down faster, right? We talked about that before. So like the level of education, but everywhere, whether you want to be a producer or a chef or an engineer or whatever, man, it's like you go to school, you read the books, it's fine. But like the library on the internet is incredible. It's incredible. The wealth of knowledge is incredible. And the resources are incredible. Yeah. And the networking capabilities are incredible. It's like, it's not even comparable. So those are all positive things. But the thief in all of this is that people don't need to rely on, there's still something like, for me, my favorite part about music, and and this is not just music, this is like really like a comment on life as it is today. It's like the result is always the least desirable thing for me. It's like, it's the desire, and like you strive to achieve it and you want to achieve it because there's like, there's like pride, happiness, like fulfillment and achievement. But the entire time that the achievement is not the best part. You know what I mean? It's not a bad part, but it's not the best part. So it's like when people forget that and they just want to get to the achievement, they bypass the best part. The best part is like getting there, right? So it's like writing lyrics. It's like I was in Mexico over the winter. Like I mentioned before, I kind of left for vacation. I left in the middle of February, and I was on a plane going down to Mexico, and on the way down there, I watched the Leonard Cohen Hallelujah biography, and on the way back, I watched the Elvis Presley biography. So the Leonard Cohen, Hallelujah biography, he writes the lyrics for Hallelujah. It takes him 7 years. Okay, it takes him 7 years, but it's the deliberation, the pain, the struggle. It's like, not that it's a bad struggle. It's just like the work, the effort that like when you finish it and you write a masterpiece like that, and it's not because it took him 7 years. He probably wrote 150 different versions of it. It took him 7 years to decide which version he wanted, but he was still writing it. But that entire journey is the reward. That's where you learn your lessons. That's where like you become a better person. That's where you grow. You know what I mean? So like all that stuff, that's the best part. So it's like if the technology does too much for you, it's like, man, when I was younger and it's like you wanted to learn a guitar riff, well, you couldn't go on YouTube and learn how to play it exactly as the guitar player played it. Within a fraction of a second, you have the information at your hand, right? Like you had to go buy the CD because you didn't get it for free on Spotify. And then like you had to listen to it. And then you had to press pause on like the CD player and rewind and listen to the part again and press pause. And sometimes you miss it. Sometimes you go back to the beginning of the song. Imagine the guys that used to do it on vinyl. You know what I mean? How hard that was. Yeah. You know, the jazz guys back in the day, they used to do it on vinyl. Okay, listen to the rock guys in the 60s, you know? So, but it takes away the whole like joy to me. Like, you know, maybe I'm just an old man. I'm probably just an old man and it's okay. But like, you know, for me, like the whole joy is not in like, oh, I wrote a great song. It's like how I wrote that song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once the song's done, it's like, it's already done. You're already over it. You know what I mean? It's not the next one. It's not the song that you care about. It's like getting to write the song. You know, you finish writing a song. When I'm finished mixing a song or producing a song, like I never want to listen to it again. And it's not because it's a bad thing. It's just like I put so much time in, like, I don't want to say never, like I'll rarely listen to it. Like sometimes just to be nostalgic in the future, I'll put on old songs and I'm like, oh, that was cool. Like I remember this, you know, but you kind of like leave it. It's done. The experience is done. You know, it's for other people to enjoy at that point. So, you know, if people don't forget that part, you know what I mean? Like, and don't get like lazy, but listen, people, if you learn it at a young age, you won't know the difference, right? So this is what I'm saying. It's like before the young generation, that's what's going to be hip and cool because it's like that's what they know. That's what they grew up with, you know? You could always go back and listen to AC/DC. You could always go back and listen to like Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin. It's like whatever. You could always do that stuff and there could always be rock and roll and you could always go back and listen to hip hop and listen to like Dre and Biggie and like you could always go back to all these styles and you could always go back to reggae and listen to Bob Marley. It's always going to be there and people are going to have cover bands of it and they're going to still play in the style. It's always going to exist, but like that's going to be the older music. You know, we don't listen to classical music anymore. This is what I think at least, you know. It's like I listen to classical music, but it's not popular anymore. It's not in the mainstream, right? We don't listen to jazz music anymore. I have jazz vinyls at home. I like taking bats. I like listening to jazz. I like listening to classical music. You know, that's what I like to do. I like listening to hip hop. I like listening to rock. I like listening to whatever. But my point is, you know, like the new technology will just create a new relationship to music, a new style of music, a new way of creating music. You know, people thought the electric guitar was voodoo when it came out, right? All these folk guitar players, like Bob Dylan played electric guitar and he was getting like booed and people were throwing stuff on stage the entire tour. You know, there was like, he was a heretic. Right? It's like, it's insane. So it's the same thing now. It's just, it's a different technology. It's for a different like generation. And, you know, like it'll just be what it is. It's like, they'll do what they do with it, you know, great stuff will come out of it. You know, as a DJ personally, it's very electronic. I used to love spinning house and like EDM and like, you know, like dance music and heavy, like, you know, like just like electronic, electro, drum and bass, whatever, all that kind of stuff. I used to spin a lot of other stuff. I used to spin like rock and alternative and like hip hop and like top 40 and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, still it's like, there's value in every style of music. There's value in everything. So the technology will just create and spawn something completely different. I mean, how do you guys feel about like music right now? Like as listeners, as an audience, and then like, you know, yourself, Haiko, as like a producer, as a songwriter, as a musician, like, how do you guys feel, but like more interestingly, like as an audience, like just like, you know, how do you feel about where music is right now? What's being released, what's cool, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's some music that I'm not too much of a fan of, this like mumble rap stuff, and you know, it's more like but it has a time and place, I guess. But that's just something that I don't like it that much. But
Yeah.
what scares me a little more is more like, you know, the Chat GPT stuff. Like if there's music that's released with that, like if you have an entire song that's written with AI, and I don't know, maybe like you said, maybe that person could find meaning in those lyrics that are written by AI, but in the back of my mind, I always have that fear that it might ruin the creative process, you know. And like you said, the journey of going through writing a song, and you know, going back to the Hallelujah song, right? Took
The difficulty of
right. It took 7 years to write the lyrics to that song. I don't know if we're gonna get that. You know, like you could go now and write an entire song in seconds. Like that's a little bit more concerning for me.
I guess, I mean, you know, the way I look at it is this: it's that, you know, life is like a big play, right? So, like, how would I say this? So, technology will like undoubtedly kill the human spirit. You know, it's just because, like, unless technology becomes like, what's the word? Sentient. It's like it has feelings, right? If they're able, like, and then, you know, like you get into all these like, you know, late night crazy discussions about like, you know, are we already AI? You know, are we someone else's AI? Are we something, you know, it's like whatever. Like everyone has these crazy philosophies. I mean, Darwin had his theory, and then there's all kinds of other people that have theories about where we come from, how we come from, all that kind of stuff. You know, there's no proof of anything really. We don't know who we are. We don't know where we are. You know what I mean? Really, truly. I mean, you could recite what you've been told, and it's quite possibly true.
yeah.
But it's like, you don't, I mean, I personally don't know for certain. I haven't like been out there. I haven't been around the entire world. I've only been where I've been, right? So it's like the rest of it is based on trust, right? It's like, okay, this is and it's also what we've learned. But anyways, I'm kind of digressing. So my point is that like you know, like AI will destroy that creative like human spirit. But now I think it's like, you know, in the storyline of the story, right? It's like, you have your choice
That's
as
where
the
we're
character,
at,
right? And this is how I felt even at the beginning of COVID, because 2020 COVID, I mean, whether that was, I mean, it wasn't a coincidence that was the start of the decade. It wasn't, you know, like, I'm not suggesting like any of this was planned. I just think like life happens for a reason, right? There is like a bigger purpose. There is a bigger guiding thing that's kind of like influencing, you know, like we have our free will and all that, but you know, there are other elements in this like universe that like our senses don't have access to like a billionth of, right? So it's like we're out there, we're doing this thing, you know, and you have a choice. It's like you either say, I want to be the type of person that's living this kind of experience in the real world, you know, it's IRL versus URL, right? In real life versus like on the internet or whatever it is. It's kind of like, it doesn't mean you can't exist in both, but it's like you have to walk that line. It's like, okay, well, is being a human gonna like matter anymore? And it's like music is just a reflection of society, right? The music of the 1960s was a reflection of that society. It was a reflection of the fashion. It was a reflection of the politics. It was a reflection of the technology. It was a reflection of the social, political like kind of landscape, right? As was the 70s and 80s and 90s and today, right? So the music is just another element, you know, the same way film, the same way social media, the same way everything in like in the media and in the world and it's all kind of strung in together, right? So the technology of the day and the politics of the day and the social norms of the day and like all these things that are happening that are so drastically different, and like we're just different creatures living at a different time, creating art in a different way, because it's like, how could you possibly create music that's relevant that sounds like it's in the 1980s if you're in 2023? You know, it's not that it's void or whatever, but it's like today, for better or worse, this is who we are as a culture, and music is a reflection of this, right? So if it's just the entire culture is very robotic and very AI and very whatever, then music will be that. If there's like a split and people do half and half, it's like there's the real worlders and like the, you know, the internet or the metaversers or whatever. Yeah. It's like, I don't know what 2025 and 2028 is going to look like, you know? And it's like, maybe it's like it's not a good interview. I don't know. I'm not giving you a good answer, but like to me, it's like even giving that advice. It's like I actually don't know what the next 3 years are going to be like since the last 3 were so different, right? So it's like
I think
things are
I think it's going to go fast.
yeah, it's going fast. So it's like
Very fast.
I don't know the answer. It's just enjoy life, man. If you want to do something, do it. So it's like it's the same thing with this. It's like, if people forget that there's joy in like not getting everything you want all the time right away, because in essence, man, it's like that's the recipe for depression. It's like getting whatever you want, whenever you want. You know what I mean? It's like there's no joy in life, man. It's like you don't. Nothing holds value anymore.
Yeah,
You want everything.
I think humans need that. Just going
bit of
through
the
some struggle and. Well, not necessarily struggle, but just like, like a journey, like a
It's
path.
a journey. It's a challenge. That's what we're designed for. You know?
Exactly.
It's like
Not
because
that
if
everything
it's so
is-
easy to get the guitar part, then you just do it, and then it's like okay, whatever. But if it took you like a month, then like when you get it, it's like
It's
there's a
satisfying.
relationship
Yeah.
there, right? It's like
Yeah.
oh, okay, this was difficult.
kind of like
this was
that,
hard.
You know that
Just-
song that's called "Everything Now" by Arcade Fire? I think that's a band.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole song is about like how everything now. You want everything now, and it's like
Yeah.
there's almost like no meaning at one point. It's like we reach some sort of singularity where everything is just
Black hole.
instant. Yeah.
I don't know.
but-
I think it's a recipe for depression, but it's like I hope
Yeah.
I'm wrong. I hope singularity is like a beautiful because listen, singularity could be a beautiful thing, the same way that it could be a horrible thing, right? It's like it's also, I think we're all vibing on a different level, and we all have a different understanding of reality, and like all like our own experiences, our own like intellect, our own upbringing. It's like we're all humans, we're all one family, but it's like our experiences, we're all on different dimensions at a certain level. It's like, how do you want me to like, and not in a bad or good way, how do you want me to relate to a woman in Iran? It's like, I could, sympathize, I could understand, like as a human, like there's like an understanding, but like, you'll never know.
You can't feel the
You'll-
actual.
without those
experience.
experiences, you'll never know. You could only like intellectualize. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could feel a bit. It's like, pain is pain, and like happiness is happiness. And like you see someone smile, you understand that. And you see someone like crying, you understand that. You know what I mean? But like
yeah.
the intricacies of that experience, like a different gender, a different part of the world, different race, different like social like position, different, so many, it's just crazy. So it's like,
I think what you were saying like before about how kind of if AI is sort of the future in the music and technology is kind of creating more and more of the music that we make, then that's what it's going to be. If we're more robotic in nature, then that's what it's going to be, the music itself. It's sort of like it comes down to the philosophy of how art kind of reflects, life. Whatever life is, like art also reflects that.
How could it not?
As much as, I might maybe disagree with that, or it's like, I don't want it to go that way, but it is going that way. It's like, I just need to, I guess, live my own life and my own truth and create what I want. And maybe that inspires others to follow that certain path, or I think that's the thing, to not, I guess, get stuck up on, why are people using autotune or AI or whatever these technologies to do stuff for themselves? I do it the raw way. I use an actual guitar. It's just like, I guess, do what, speaks true to you. And, that reflects, and that's like a drop in the pond, and that then, influences others.
And then times are
potentially.
going to change, right? Like right now, we might have a lot of music about AI and technology, but 10, 15 years down the line, music might
might be a
converge
shift.
towards something else, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
I mean,
like
look-
back in the 90s, we had a lot of music that were, I guess, more political, and, like Rage Against the Machine is a good example of like, reflecting of, what was happening in politics, and they based a lot of their music on that. And, now we're going to have bands that are going to, write their music about how AI is impacting their lives. It's just going to be another era for music.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was kind of getting at before, right? And you guys said it. It's like art is a reflection of the times, right? So society is going to tell you. It's like if people are wearing these clothes and talking about these things and going through these things and like are repressed in these ways and have freedom in these other ways, it's like, like I said, like the movies that I watched coming and going from Mexico, like on the way back, it was Elvis. And it's like, when you look at like Elvis standing on the stage, in the 1950s, shaking his hips, and it's like,
Yeah. That was
crazy, dude. Forget it.
Yeah.
Guy's shaking
unorthodox.
his hips. He's doing one of those guys, and it's like, it's they told him it's either jail or like war. You know what I mean? It's like you're not allowed in this country anymore, man. You know what I mean? It's insane, dude. Like think about that. And now think about like what's allowed on stage on music videos. It's like you could be pretty much naked.
Yeah,
You know what I
every
mean?
second video on TikTok is like someone.
So it's kind of like
Or like the Grammys have become some sort of. But that's the thing. Like I don't like that either. Like okay,
no, but I'm just saying it's
else?
like it's a reflect like, and the music is a reflection of that. That's the that's the social part, like that's connected to the music. But then I'm saying the music is like, for him at the time, he was listening to a lot of blues and he was listening to a lot of country, and it's like, it was cool, and like they created this new sound, which was like not really a new sound, but it's like like he kind of brought it to the mainstream as a new
Popularized
sound.
it.
So it's like, it was relevant at the time because it's like people were listening to blues underground and like pop country and whatever, and it's like for this guy to put it together as a white guy playing like white and black music and like and doing this whole thing, and it was a new sound for the mainstream. It was exciting and it was shaking his hips, and it's like so it's like it's relevant, like that music was relevant to, and that's why it did so well to society, right? I'm saying the music that's going to do well in the market, in pop culture, that's going to go down in history as the most famous stuff, the Justin Biebers of like tomorrow, you know what I mean? It's like whether you like Justin Bieber or not doesn't matter. It's like he's going to be there forever, man. People are going to know the Bieb, it's like he's massive, so it's like
He had an influence for sure. I mean,
of course, he has a
as much as
story, he
people
has an
hate
influence,
him.
but it's pop culture. So, if you're just talking about, I want to play music with my buddies, or, I have a 9 to 5 and like, I want to do something fun and like advance in the industry, but it's not like my main deal. It's like, it's all kinds of different stuff, right? So like, there's, that's the nice thing about the technology, where it's like, man, the 9 to 5 guy that like still has the passion and still has the talent, and it's like, he wants to do it, and it's not like a professional gig. It's just, what? I'm doing this for my own enjoyment. And, man, like I put together like 50 beats. Maybe I sell one. Maybe I get out of my 9 to 5 thing. It's like, you could use it as like a gateway. It's like, the technology in that way is incredible. It offers a lot more people opportunity. It's like, I knew I was doing this since I was like 14 years old. When I was 14 years old, I was like, I'm going to be a musician. I am a musician already. And like, I'm not going to do anything else. You know what I mean? It's like, why would I? It's like, I love this. It's like,
You
I
already
didn't
had
know how to
decided.
do it. I didn't know what to do, where, like, I'm sure I could have done a lot of things better, but for me, it's like, and I put in the work. It's like I said, it's like, regardless, I was still like, you're going to school as a teenager and you're still practicing like a good 4 to 5 hours a night or something like that, whatever made sense. Like, you go, you do your homework, you play some guitar, you eat, you play some guitar, you go to bed, right? So it's like, and then, even back then, man, in the mid 90s, it's like for me to record music, we used to have these these 4-tracks, tape machines, right? So it's like you used to record on 4 different tracks onto those tapes that you used to buy at Jean Coutu, the pharmacy, right? And it's like you put the tape in and you record. And you record track 1, vocal or a drum, one mic on a whole drum set, and then track 2 was bass. And track 3 was guitar, and then track 4 was the vocals, and it's like that's your song. And I had a drum machine, so I put that on track 1 sometimes. But that was like very, very analog, and I'd hear it all. I don't remember if I had headphones going into the 4-track or if there was a little speaker on the 4-track that just, I can't even remember. I probably had headphones. But like, you're listening through headphones, and that was your studio in the 90s when I was a kid. It's like you plug your guitar straight in, or maybe not straight in, like I think I had a mic for the amp, and it's like, but that was my home studio in 1996, drum machine, kind of similar to this, but it's like obviously not as elaborate. I didn't have nice speakers. I didn't have much of an awareness, but it's like, that's how I started. Today, it's like, I mean, if you compare that technology and the resources I had available to me, which was nothing, okay, zero. There was no or maybe there was Sound on Sound magazine, but I definitely didn't know about it. There was no YouTube. It's like there was a couple of studios in town, but it's like, I didn't have the brains to get like an assisting job, or I didn't really have the desire. I was a musician back then. But like today, the technology is insane. It's cool. It's like you open a computer, you have Pro Tools, you have every plugin, EQs, compressors, gates, saturation plugins. You got limiters. You got all this stuff. You go on YouTube. I'm watching all these tutorials. I buy an online course for $100. Bang! I'm learning all this kind of stuff. 6 months later, I'm a record producer. It's like, I could I work a summer job. I save up a couple of bucks, $5,000, man. And you get a kick-ass computer, get all the plugins, get a pair of headphones, a MIDI keyboard. You're set. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have to invest a lot.
Even back then, when you mentioned that in '96 you had kind of like your own home recording studio. So I guess that advice still stands for today, right? Kind of that old school way of, you had that, those four
analog tape
recorder, and now, we just have different technology, but I guess that advice still stands for today. If you want to get started in music producer, the do it yourself, then you just get the equipment, it doesn't have to be super elaborate, and then you could just start from there.
Yeah. I mean, listen, my philosophy in life is just live life. You know what I mean? It's like, if you have if you want to do something, you'll figure it out. Like, I mean, obviously, like, I'm going to give you the advice, but like the fundamental thing you need to have for success is the drive to do it, right? If you have the drive, then it's like, listen, if you want to learn something, you're going to sniff it out. You're going to figure it out. You're going to dig. You're going to go after
want to learn.
If you don't want to learn, like I have a lot of things that I have to-do lists and like all these things of like things that I like would be cool to like learn and do, but it's like, man, I don't have that hunger, but I have the hunger to like understand acoustics. I have the hunger to understand different instruments and like mixing and like arrangements. And I have the hunger to like learn about the music business. And I have a hunger to learn about like running a business in a recording studio. And it's like, so it's like you seek out the resources and like you put the time in. Like, honestly, man, a lot of the answers, like they come from you, it's like you'll put yourself in a situation where you could ask people questions or read something or like hear something. Like I said, today it's like it's way easier than it ever was. But like, man, you could buy a book, you could watch a video, you could subscribe to an online course. It's like,
but you still need to put the work.
Yeah,
I think that's what people.
But that's what I'm saying. You need the drive. If you don't have the drive, forget it. It's like you can't practice guitar 5 hours a day if you don't love practicing guitar 5 hours a day. The same way you can't like lift weights for like maybe not 5 hours, so like there's a physical limit, but play hockey
3
or,
hours,
play soccer, like to train. If you want to be an athlete, to train every day, the physical abuse. It's like, there's no physical abuse playing an instrument unless you're maybe doing drums, maybe vocals as well. Guitar, there's no physical abuse, but it's still like sitting down for 5 hours is playing an instrument is tough.
It's mental fatigue. It's not physical fatigue. It's mental fatigue.
Sometimes it's
focus.
Like,
it's
I know for myself,
you have to train yourself to focus.
Like, I've practiced guitar for a few hours, like 3-4 hours, and it's just mentally draining. It's like I also train, and it's such a different game. Training is mentally fatiguing, but physically fatiguing. But there's something about practicing, for hours on end. It could be definitely fatiguing mentally. Anyways.
Yeah, but for me it isn't, man. It's like I would like I'm trying to figure out a way. If you guys could help me, I want to find like a good passive income stream. Bring 10K into my bank account every month. I don't have to think about it, and I can play guitar 8 hours a day. And if I play shows, maybe I'll play shows. If I don't, I don't. I just want to play guitar. I want to learn. I want to practice. It's like I would do it.
Just start a live stream, dude. Just like
maybe.
Just like
I have to wear like a practicing dress, I have to do something entertaining. I have to give them a little more than the live stream.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's funny.
But that's just me. It's like, there's other people that could sit like in a library and read books for like 8 hours. Like, I love reading books, but I don't know that I have the 8 hour capacity. That's not where like I'm attracted, but there's other people that do. There's other people that like to write. I could write for 8 hours. It's like, I love writing, love it. But like, I can't do it for 8 hours. Like, give me an hour or 2 hours. It's like, then you start getting a little, fidgety, your focus is not there. But it's like, again, it's follow your passion, your enthusiasm. If you're enthusiastic about something, it's like great wisdom that I've received. It's like, if you're enthusiastic about something, then that's where you're gonna have your most success, because you're loving the process, you're loving the experience. Just give me a sec, guys. Plug up my computer. I don't want to waste the
worries.
cycle, it's a new one.
Yeah, no
But
worries.
if the enthusiasm is there, then it's not work. I've done like 12-hour days at the studio. I've done like, recently I played a show at the studio last December, and it was like a live concert, but it was at the studio. I was performing. I actually I did 2 sets, like 2 different bands, and like my solo stuff and this like fun band like I kind of play around with once in a while called King Tut. So, I mean, you get there, you clean out the room, you get all the equipment out, you set up the mics, you run through sound check, you perform 2 shows, then you tear down, you clean up the room. It's like a 14-hour day, 15-hour day. You know what I mean? But it's like,
Wow, yeah.
but you love it, man. At hour 15, you're still like, you're exhausted, but like, you're still like, all right,
You wanna
carrying
keep
this
going.
mic stand for some retarded reason is enjoyable right now. It's like, I should be in a mental institute, but it's like, it's enjoyable,
I mean,
So-
that's your passion, man. You have tunnel vision and just don't get tired of it. It's just what keeps you going, I guess. I don't think I'd see you be doing anything else. I mean, clearly you're passionate and you're driven to make music and make others make music as well.
Yeah. And I think, so I guess, just to wrap that section is, there's so many ways to get into music production, that if you have the drive, then you will find the answers. The answers are there and they're easier to get than ever before. Like the online resources that there exist, YouTube that I have used, since the time it begun, mixed with the masters, other websites, Sound on Sound.
It's an incredible time to learn, man. It's an incredible time to learn. It's
so-
like,
You have to put the time and the hard work,
Yeah, of
and
course, but like
the
anything
whole
else.
10,000 hours
Yeah.
rule that they say to become a pro, that still applies.
yeah, of course, 100%. There's no secret formula,
Yeah,
Just, that's the way it is. But it's like you could get there faster because I've like, the thing is 10,000 hours. But if it's like 10,000 hours and like 7,000 of those hours were like misinformed, then they're not really 7,000 hours. You kind of like lost 7,000. Maybe you didn't lose 7,000 hours. Maybe you lost like 3,000.
It wasn't
hours,
effective.
Yeah.
So it's like now you need 13,000. You don't need 10. But if like you have all the right information, like that's why people are getting better at the instruments. It's like you're getting so much like from the mouth of the best mixer in the world. All right, well,
Yeah.
if I can't learn from him, then I can't learn. You know what I mean? It's like,
And I think a lot of people think they're putting in 10,000 hours, but for example, like when let's say you're practicing an instrument, if you keep, practicing the same riffs, the same licks, whatever,
Yeah.
over and over again,
you get really
like,
good at
okay,
those licks.
you'll get really good at those licks, those riffs, but are you really putting in 10,000 hours? Are you, actively
good.
trying to learn new stuff, look at theory, learn new songs and, delve into that stuff? Like I know I got stuck in that kind of like that loophole kind of thing.
We all get stuck in that.
Yeah, just kind of playing the same thing over and over
You
again.
get good at
getting
that,
good at
but
that,
then you're like,
that,
can't
and
do.
Then
Me too,
you can't
same.
do anything else. Even forget how to play the other stuff.
Listen, we all do that. I do that. I catch myself doing that. You do it. It's fear and ignorance. You know what I mean? That's all it is because it's
Yeah.
like, a bit of knowledge that I received that was also very, very, very like eye-opening and helpful to me. And I only received this like last year, but like I kind of like, I lived this way when I was younger and then I kind of like lost it and I guess I forgot about it. But, the idea is this, is that if you have a high willingness to learn, okay, then you're going to have success forever, So and willingness to learn means it's not like, okay, I've reached this level of podcasting. I've reached this level of like guitar. I've reached this level of whatever, understanding of like quantum physics. It doesn't matter what it is, right? I've reached this level of whatever it is. So it's like, that's enough. It's like now I hit the top. Wherever that top is. For some people, it's in grade 9. For some people, it's 2 doctorates at, for some people, it's 50 years in an industry. For some people, it's an hour into like learning something. You know what I'm saying? It's like everyone has like that maximum. But the people that don't have a maximum, those are always going to be the people that have the most success because they always want to learn. They're always hungry to learn more. They're inquisitive. Their brain, they're working it. Just like an athlete, you work your body, it's stronger. If you work your mind, it's stronger. If you have an openness to learn more, to expand, to just bring in different
Are you a
information.
curiosolic or not?
That's it. You're just downloading, more information. It's just making you smarter, like better, stronger, all that kind of stuff, right? So, to me, like that's like just super important. Like just being open to like always learning, always asking questions. Like, okay, I've learned this much guitar. What else could I learn? Oh, I never learned how to like do country like finger picking like guitar. Okay, so let me learn that. It's like let me bring in another like thing into the pot, and like it just makes me more diverse. Like even as a music producer, listen, nowadays, like the basic like advice that everyone gives is be able to do everything, be able to write songs. Now, again, we could get into that. Do you need to anymore because of AI? Like, I think you do, but like, you have to be a jack of all trades also, like that's just what people are looking for in the industry. It's like, there's less, budgets are lower. So it's like, okay, I can't hire a music producer, a sound engineer, I don't know, like a full band, blah, 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 blah. So it's like, okay, I don't have budget for that because we talked about it was like more expensive, right? So budget smaller, I need to work with someone who could produce, who could engineer, who could mix, who could maybe play some instruments, that has a great understanding, like, or at least we could do it all on like his MIDI keyboard or whatever. It's like, you need to be able to do A to Z. So it's like, be as diverse as you can, learn more. Like I realized this. I was like, man, there was a couple of years that like I just stopped learning about mixing. I thought, like, okay, I know how to mix now, and then I was like, man, it was just detrimental because it's like I was working a lot, so I was having the experience, I was practicing for sure, but I still lost that little edge of like, okay, I stopped watching mix videos, I stopped listening to people talk about production, and half the time, if not almost all the time, they're saying stuff that I know already, but just be like, but you think you know it. It's like, okay, this is how you mic a kick drum. It's like, yes, and I've done it a million times. Yes, and it works, but you could always do it.
There's
better.
something new.
You could always do it just a little better, always, forever, to infinity. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the moment you're like, okay, this is good enough, then you actually start moving backwards a bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
once you get stagnant, it's like you can't progress. You hit that plateau and you're like preventing yourself from advancing. And that's in a lot of different things in life. It could be from sports, like music. It could be in anything. If like you keep stop learning, then you're not going to advance. It's just simple as that.
Yeah.
When
you think you've learned everything, that's when you start growing. You need to always be open to what else is there that I don't know. And there's always something that you don't know, and there's always someone better than you. So it's always to humble yourself.
That's kind of the preface of this podcast.
Yeah, is it?
Kinda,
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of.
Cool, man.
Just to humble yourself. Just to before we conclude this whole thing, I think we wanted to also touch upon one topic regarding new artists and bands, because we talked about how to get into music production, produce yourself or record for other people. But let's say a new artist, like a singer or guys, they have a band together. How could they get their stuff produced? Do you have any specific tips in that? Or again, it's just to have that drive really, and the resources and the ways to network are easier than ever? Or is there anything specific?
At the end of the day, I think it's all the same stuff, man. It's like what I said before. It just comes down to what you want. I think it's about the experience that you want. It's about, if you're in a band, whether you're a solo artist or you're a guy in a band or a girl in a band, it's like, if you want the experience where you want to play live in front of people and you want to go into a recording studio and play your instruments and you want to write songs in a rehearsal room because that's the experience you want, that's the type of band you want, maybe you're a band like, I don't even know how to pronounce the name, Mainskin or Manskin, or, that band I'm talking about?
I'm not too sure.
Maneskin.
I think I've heard of them.
I don't even know how to, but they're cool. I like their music. They're Italian. They're from Italy, but they're huge right now. But anyways, I'm just saying, it's like, they're young kids who are playing rock and roll, man, and they're in a band. They're doing it. They're touring the world. Little Italian kids from Italy, like the early 20s, and they're amazing. It's rock and roll. It's modern. It's pop. It's cool. But I'm saying, like, that's how they want to do it. That's the generation, man. They're choosing to do it that way. At the same time, where there's a lot of the generation who's choosing to say, you know what, and maybe it's not even a choice. It's like it's whatever. It's a destiny. It's whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but it's like, maybe you're in a small town or you're in a big town. It doesn't really matter. But like, you have a laptop and you're in your bedroom and you're producing beats because you and your friends and your circle of friends love beat making. You know what I mean? And you love trap. And you love hip hop, and you love like whatever it is, EDM, house, electro. It's like you're doing all these things that like, are in the wheelhouse of like the things that like, just your group of friends is always going to dictate it. This is what we like. This is what we do. Maybe in our neighborhood, it's not like about like live instruments. It's about like beat making, or it's about like electronic music, or there's a big like country folk scene over here. We just get together with our acoustic guitars and we like do singer-songwriter stuff. And then that's what we're getting into. Like, every city has a different vibe too, right? So it's like, that's like ultimately, again, society, music. It always, like the neighborhood you grow up in is going to dictate the school you go to, like the friends you hang out with. It's like now I find it's less because there's so much availability. When I was younger, it was more because it was a lot more isolated. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's like if you want to do whatever it is, and just go out and do it, and it's like whatever makes you feel good. That's ultimately what it is, right? So the advice is like just follow that path. If you want to like, if you want to be in the electro scene, it's like get a laptop, get a MIDI keyboard, go at home and write the best beats you can. You know what I mean? The best beats, like beats that are the best. And it's like, if they're not the best, and be honest with yourself. You know what I mean? You know what's good and you know what's not good. Compare it to, you love Billie Eilish, compare it to Billie Eilish. If you play 5 Billie Eilish songs and you play your song, does your song suck or does your song sound okay? You know what I mean? And it's like, if it sucks, then... And you're striving to like be at, not to sound like Billie Eilish, but to be at a level where it's like, if I play this in a playlist, I'm enjoying song 1 and I'm enjoying song 2, right? I'm not thinking, it's just a different artist that's just as good, The same way a playlist has, like you have a dozen or 25 or 100 songs of whatever, and they're all good, right? They're all different artists, but they're all good. You like all of them. So it's like, I want to be on that playlist. So just work towards making music that makes you feel that way. That's like, on this imaginary playlist of mine, it's always been like that for artists. This imaginary playlist of mine, these are the artists I love, and I want to put music, the Beatles loved Little Richard and Chuck Berry and like, I don't know, all those blues guys, Howlin' Wolf, all those like early like blues rock guys. Like, who was there? What's his name?
B.B.
Not
King.
Albert. There was Albert King, but there was, I'm forgetting his name. But anyways.
Yeah.
It's gonna come to me. It's right there. I see his face. But anyways, so it's like, but that their playlist was all that music, and then they wanted to write music that would fit into that playlist. So today it's the same thing. It's like if you're, if you love Dua Lipa, just like, like try and write a song that would fit on a playlist that Dua Lipa would be on, So, and just be honest with yourself. And as you're going through that journey, I mean, the tools that you could use at your disposal. I mean, you could use ChatGPT if you want. It's like, you're having trouble coming up with a verse. It's like, I want to say this, give me some ideas. And it's like, okay, and then just craft it into your song the way you like.
You
use
could
it
even
as a
ask
tool. The same way you use auto-tune to like correct a pitch. It's like, okay, you missed a couple of notes, whatever. It's like, we're there now. We're not going back. It's not about, okay, well, auto-tune, yes, no. It's like, we're using it. It's over. You like it, you don't like it, doesn't matter. It's like when you come up with a technology, it's like you have the microwave. You're not going to not use the microwave. You know what I mean? It's like if you like it, you can not like it, whatever. But it's like you want your food to be warm. Yeah. If that's the only option, bang, it's microwave. You know what I mean? It's like whatever. We have the technology, cell phone, social media. It's like you're not going backwards. So
you could even ask ChatGPT to like write a verse in the style of Dua Lipa now. So like, let's say you're stuck and you're like, oh, like how would I make my song sound like it was written by Dua Lipa? You could have your lyrics sound like it was written by Dua Lipa. You could literally prompt it to do that for you.
Cool.
So it's, so I guess there are some disadvantages and also some advantages to it. You just got to be careful, I guess, not to, have your entire song written by it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, whatever. At a certain point, man, it's a supply and demand thing, right? So it's like, in the end, this is what it is. I was thinking about it the other day, and it's like there's a very high supply and there's a very low demand, right? There's a very high supply of musicians, producers, professionals, but there's a very low demand for the service, right? So it just makes the playing field a lot harder, a lot more competitive, right? And you have to know where you're going and where you're playing. So the reason why I say that is because, like you guys said it before, a lot more people have access. There's 100,000 songs a day coming out on Spotify. And, you know, if you're an ad company, right, and you need a song, well, you could hire a producer, you could hire a beat maker. You know, if you're scoring a movie or a film, I'm not saying they're always going to do this, but, you know, think about it. It's like, okay, in the budget, we could spend X amount of dollars, $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000. I want to use this song, that song, that song. I mean, if you're using it for nostalgic purposes, you want to use a Rolling Stone song, then you have to use the Rolling Stone song. But if it just has to sound like a Rolling Stone song, then why do you want to pay royalties to the Rolling Stones when you can ask a computer to make that song, right? It's like in the industry, it's like that's where it's like, you know, you're going to look at it and say, like, I mean, I would understand because it just makes sense, dollars and cents. It's just what it is, right? Like, you're still going to have songwriters, you're still going to have artists, you're still going to have bands, but for a lot of commercial stuff, it's like, why would you hire like someone or people royalties when it's like you could just have a computer like generate music for you, cost you nothing, zero. Now it's like you could spend a bit more money on video, you could spend a bit more money on marketing, you could take that money and buy yourself a yacht. You know what I mean? It's like whatever you want to do, but that's just the fun part about it. It's gonna go where it goes, and it's like it's all good. But like, I think if you want to enjoy the experience, it's very simple. This is where we are moving forward. If you want to enjoy the experience and be out here and live life and connect on that level, and like, I like to struggle, but I'm old school, then continue doing it. You know, it's like, I like going for walks and like, okay, what's that line? I need that line for that song. What am I trying to say? Where am I trying to go with this? There's something nice about just typing it in a computer and also getting the answer right away. But, you know, if you want to like have that experience, do it. And if you need to like take the easy route because it's like, man, you don't have time because it's like life's moving so fast, then just
or you're
take
stuck.
You know, it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could be stuck and you're looking for that line for months and you're like, man, how am I going to get out of this?
GPT
And GPT just
Yeah, but it's like chips. Okay, it's like chips. You don't say I'm going to open the bag and I have one chip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
2 chips. You don't remember that old commercial? Bet you can't eat just one. Frito-Lays, right? It's like,
yeah.
who's going to open a bag and have a chip? You know?
Right.
It's
yeah,
like,
it's like
now there's people that have more willpower than others, but it's like I'm one of those people that lack that willpower. It's like I don't open the bag or I open it. But if I know I'm opening that thing, man, it's like I'm going to the bottom. It's like
yeah.
So you try not to buy the big bags, you know, because it doesn't matter how big the bag is. You're going to the bottom anyway. So it's like, it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm weak. I don't know, whatever. But it's like, that's just how we're
Just
wired. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
if it's easy, if it feels good, you're just going to go for more of it. You know what I mean? Why would you go for less of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because we just want that easy access, right? We can't take
I think that's the thing,
a small
You
bite
can't help
out
it.
of the
It's a
sandwich.
dopamine.
It's like a big,
it's a
always a
dopamine
big
hit.
bite.
You know what I mean? It's a dopamine hit. You can't help it. It's like you're going to be, once you get that hit, you're just like, I like this thing, you know? Once you
Yeah, I
have a
wanna
cookie,
use it
you
more.
want another cookie. It tastes, cookies are good. The sugar, oh yeah, I feel great, you know? That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, that was easy. Well, why am I going to struggle now when this, oh, look at that. Ooh, yeah. You know, at the beginning, it feels good. I'm getting all these, like, look at this crazy vocals, crazy lyrics. Look at this. Oh yeah, man, it feels amazing, you know?
But I guess it's good to like maybe just step back, reflect on what you're using, these technologies that you're including in your creative process, and say, is this giving me the meaning that I want out of, you know, the music that I'm making or creating, right? Because yeah, you might use it might feel good and easy at first, but maybe it might not speak to you or be true to you. So I guess at the end of the day, if someone does rely on AI for the whole process of creating music, and that's what like gives them meaning because they're very like robot inclined or you know, that's kind of what they feel like, because there are some people who, you know, they're okay like becoming cyborgs or, you know, like kind of merging into becoming robots. I know like the artist like Grimes, you know, have you heard of her? She was like,
Was it
you know,
Elon Musk's
ex-wife
yeah.
now, that she's very in tune with like, you know, sci-fi stuff and like, you know, becoming one with robots. I mean, I don't know too much about that, but I know that she's, you know, kind of into that stuff, and maybe for her that kind of thing does give meaning, you know.
Explains why she was married to Elon, I guess.
She's married to a robot.
maybe.
Yeah.
That's
She's from Montreal, right?
Yeah,
you know?
she
Oh,
is.
is she?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And she's
So-
Canadian. She's from here
Well,
too.
I mean, listen, but that's a perfect example. Look, life is like, to me, I look out at life and I just see infinite expression of like, some people call it God, some people call it universal consciousness, some people call it divinity, some people, whatever it is, some people call it nothing. You know what I mean? It's like, but it's just like everything is just infinite expression, right? So it's like you're going to get an infinite expression of people in the way they look, in the way in their voices, in their facial features. It's like, it's incredible, in their attitudes, in the way they like live their life. So it's like, to me, it's fun. If everyone was the same into the same stuff, it would be boring. So it's like, if people are into this and that and that and that, it just makes life more diverse, more interesting, more like colorful, right? We could talk about genders. We could talk about like religions. We could talk about like anything that like divides people should really just be celebrated, right? I mean, it's a big joke, but like, I mean, I think it's cool because music is just like that. If you open the space to like where people could just, you know, express the way they want to express, and there's plenty of diversity. I think that's where we are now anyways. It's like, it's just a function of, in the end, it's like, I just look at it, because I do it professionally, I always look at it as professional or non-professional. It's like, are you making like a livelihood from it? And then at that point you have to also like think about like business and like all that kind of stuff. Or, you know, is it just a pastime, a hobby, something that you do for fun, something that's just an inspiring thing, like, you know, at the end of the day or on the weekend or whatever. And it's all good. You know, like my solo stuff is my hobby. Like I said before, it's more like the stuff I do, you know, in the evenings, on the weekends. It's like, it's just fun. I like it. I'm not trying to make money off it. You know what I mean? You have to make money in life. So it's like, you know, make your money, and then like whatever music, however music fits into
Have a
that,
creative
whether it's
passion
like
and
professional or not. It's like, just do it, make it feel good. You know, it's like, listen, man, people that like do anything and like it doesn't feel good, it's like, whether it's work or not, it's like why are you gonna do it? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, you can't work at a job that like you hate. You can't be in a relationship with someone you don't like. You know what I mean? You can't. It's just gonna destroy. Like, you can for a bit, but it's gonna destroy you, right? So it's like, it's the same thing. Music, there's no answer. It's like, if it makes you feel good to do it a certain way, then like just pursue that. There's so much like knowledge out there. Put in the time as much as you want. If it's half an hour a week, if it's half an hour a day, if it's half an hour, a half hour, you know what I mean? It's like, whatever it is, it's like, just follow your heart. So it's like, I mean, I went to the extreme. I have a studio in my house. I have a studio in the city. It's like, I've been playing music all my life. It's like, for me, that's just like who I am, what I am. But it's like, whatever your relationship is to it, it's like, just enjoy it. You know what I mean? If you're not enjoying it, then it just becomes very painful. And I don't know, man. It's like, industry's tough, man. It's like, you know, like you can't not enjoy music, because it's like the industry is so like rough and like brutal that it's like, you know, if you don't love it, then like you're just a lunatic. You know, it's like,
Yeah, you're not at the right
insane.
place. Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe you're insane
right.
anyways. Evan,
Yeah.
we were listening to who was it, Alex Jones the other day.
Yeah,
My
Kind of
boy.
retarded.
we're kind of retarded.
Kind of retarded.
I think that's a good place to close it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Derek. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. We appreciate it. How about you give a little plug and tell people where they could find you, and you know what your social media accounts are, and just that stuff.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, first of all, thank you guys for having me. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun talking to you guys.
Yeah, it was fun.
I've watched a bunch of your podcasts already. There was
thank you.
The most recent one that you guys did on ChatGPT. Anyways, it was a bunch, but like that's like the most recent I watched, and like, so thank you very much. It was a lot of fun being here. And then like, you know, people could find me very easily, DerekOrsi.com. So DerekOrsi.com. I have like a producer side, a music side. So you could find my music, you could listen to my productions, you could see the studio. It's all there. There's links to like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. But I mean, if you put in my name, Derek Orsi, on YouTube, Facebook, you know, Instagram, it's all there. Studio is called Freak Shop. So that's FREQ. Very hard to pronounce for most people. SHOP. So freakshop.com. Excuse me, thefreakshop.com. Or you could find this on Facebook, Instagram, typing in the same thing, and then you could get shots of the studio. And that's it, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was pretty cool. A lot of good stuff that we went over.
Yeah, I think you gave a pretty comprehensive, explanation on what you do and how, young people can get into music and music production and whatever they want to do in life, and not just, specifically music production. It could be whatever they want to pursue. It's just, have kind of that tunnel vision and just go straight ahead.
Yeah, man. I mean, follow your heart. That's the most important thing, and like stay inspired. And, just if you live with integrity, you're going to be doing okay. So, I mean, whatever it is, music or otherwise, music's the best. I love music. You know what I mean? It's just the best. But like for someone else, like physics might be the best, and it's like, I do love physics. I think it's something that like I love to study. I love like reading, hearing about that stuff. Like, like on my spare time, I don't really listen to music. I kind of like try and learn about other stuff. I'm into like metaphysical stuff, spiritual stuff, like quantum physics. I love listening to podcasts and like listening to people talk about, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, just keep your brain, just water it, nurture it. You know what I mean? It's like whatever it is that like inspires you, it's like you're going to have a thirst to like learn more about it.
But music, is very much fundamental to everyone. Even if you're not, super into making music or whatnot, I think music is universal. And there's a quote from Marvin Gaye that I really love where he said, from a song there he says, music is my heart and soul. It's more precious than gold.
Yeah, man.
There you go. Yeah. It's a good way to
wrap it up. Yeah.
All right.
Well said.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys, man. Have a great night.